Hello, guys. Welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. Today, we're going to be looking at the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2020. Okay, as you are well aware, we've been reviewing the different types of SDGs. Today, I started by opening the presentation by referring you to the cover page because in most cases, I don't do that. I just go straight to the section so that you know that I'm actually looking at the report. This report is online. One thing I need to tell you is that I want to upload the United Nations because they've been very honest when reporting what the true picture is. And as M&D professionals, that is what defines us. Our ethics tell us that we should be honest and transparent with whatever we report. So as usual, this presentation is quite long. So take advantage of the timestamps in the description below so that you don't have to, watch the whole video, but you can just go to certain sections that are of key importance to you. So without wasting any more time, let's review SDG 5, and that is gender equality. Okay, very important indicator, guys. Very, very important. Okay, so it says there SDG 5 gender equality, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So international commitments to advance. Okay, so I'm going to read the opening paragraph. That's what I've always been doing, but then we're going to discuss. International commitments to advance gender equality have brought about improvement in some areas. Child marriages and female genital mutilation have declined in recent years, and women's representation in the political arena is higher than ever before. But the promise of a world in which every woman and girl enjoys full gender equality and where all legal, social, and economic barriers to their empowerment have been removed remains unfulfilled. In fact, that goal is probably even more distant than before, since women and girls are being hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. The crisis is creating circumstances that have already contributed to a surge in reports of violence against women and girls and may increase child marriage and female genital mutilation. Moreover, women are likely to take on most additional care work owing to the closure of schools and their care centers. They are also on the front lines in fighting the coronavirus since women account for nearly 70% of the health and social workers globally. Okay. So guys, what do you think about the opening paragraph? I didn't quite like this word. In fact, that goal is probably even more distant than before. Wow. There's also something I wanted to talk about, and that's the issue of child marriage and female genital mutilation. Okay, if it is what I think it is, because I've not, I'm fully aware of this child marriage, and really, child marriage is so wrong. It has to end. But what I don't fully know what this is, but I have an idea. I think I have an idea. And perhaps if you have time, guys, I won't discuss this here because I don't really know it, but I have an idea. And I know it must be something really bad. But if you have time, you can search on this. So now, since the COVID-19 has hit the world so hard, from what I'm getting in media reports, because I listen mainly to BBC, and other international news media, is that women, because of these lockdowns and closures, they are more at home and they are exposed to these gender-based violence acts from their spouse. Okay, so it's really sad. Okay, but let's read further. We get to understand what exactly is happening. Okay, so it's saying COVID-19 is intensifying the risk of violence against women and girls. The coronavirus pandemic lockdowns have confined many women and girls to their homes, sometimes with abusive partners. Yeah, exactly. exactly what I was saying, putting them at greater risk of domestic violence. Even before the pandemic, physical and sexual violence against women were all too common, according to surveys conducted between 2005 2017 in 106 countries. 18% of ever partnered women and girls 15 to 49 years of age experienced such violence by a current or former intimate partner in the 12 months prior to the survey. Okay. Already, data from several countries show an increase in reporting of domestic violence to help lines, women's refugees and shelters, and the police. When considering such data, it is important to keep in mind that less than 40% of women who experience violence report this crime or seek help. Being confined at home with an abusive partner, and in some countries lacking access to mobile phones or the internet, make it more difficult for women to safely reach out for help. According to data from 66 countries over the period 2016 to 2018, mobile phone ownership among women was 6.8 percent points lower than for men on average. Women are also more likely to have their phones monitored by abusive or controlling partners. In addition, because of service disruption and closures, women experiencing violence have less access to support and may not seek or be able to receive medical care if needed. Okay, so this one I think explains why there's a lot of GBV, gender based violence, during the lockdown because the women and the girls are confined. So, one thing okay, this is maybe outside the profession, okay. One thing I've always wanted to understand is why there has to be this kind of increase. I'm sure there must be some numbers, some research that has been done to explain why there are these patterns. But in my previous videos, there's a serious problem, okay, that needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, GBV is everywhere. It's not just in the countries where you'd think this is where you'll find such cases, but it's everywhere. Okay, I did a video about this. You can look in at my YouTube channel. You'll find that I talked about this. It's actually also happening in places like the UK. You have these cases. So what is really happening? Okay, and we're not. These are gruesome acts for some. Women are really being abused, beaten up, and it's crazy. It's crazy, guys. Girls also. So I think there has to be a total uh, change in the way people's minds are functioning. There has to be some sensitization. There has to be some education that can help people change their behaviors. Yeah, and it's a total mindset change in my view, and it's long term. Okay, it's sad that it's still happening. It's even sadder that it has to be happening in these times. Okay, so it says the global pandemic could set back progress to end child marriage and female genital mutilation. Okay, marriage before the age of 18 is a human rights violation, mostly affecting girls, and can lead to a lifetime of disadvantage and deprivation. Okay, so let's pause there. Okay, you know what, guys? Many of the countries around the world are aligned to these human rights issues. But what I always ask myself is, why aren't the governments doing anything? Okay. Think about it. I don't know. Okay. So let's continue. One in five women between the ages of 20 and 24 was married before the age of 18 around 2019. Okay. Compared with about one in four 10 years later. Southern Asia has seen the greatest decline over this period. Today, the risk of child marriage is highest in sub-Saharan Africa. Remember in the previous SDG, anyway, I think I've forgotten. It's quality education. Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at. Quality education. It looked like sub-Saharan Africa was topping the the area, the continent that has serious issues. Again, we are seeing it coming up again. The risk of child marriage is highest in sub-Saharan Africa, where more than 1 in 3 women between the ages of 20 were married before the age of 18. School closures and widening poverty as a result of the pandemic could put more girls at risk. Okay, so let's look at the statistics here. Where is Africa? Okay, Northern Africa. There's Sub-Saharan Africa. Married in union at or after age of 15, but before. Okay, so here they're saying 25% of people were married before age 18. Okay, so this is really sad because you can't steal a child's life like that. At least if they are after 18, they have, they are mature enough to decide. But before the age, I mean, they're not developed maturely, and it's and they have a bright future ahead of them. So why should they be forced into these things? Okay, so there's this one. Female genital mutilation is another blatant violation of human rights. At least 200 million girls and women have been subjected to female genital mutilation in 31 countries where the practice is concentrated. Half of these countries are in Western Africa. Okay, so from the way I understand this, it's like there is some tampering with, as they have mentioned, which is not right. And I think we are seeing again serious issues in Western Africa. So it's unfortunate. I don't know much about this, guys. Forgive me, but from the way it sounds, it looks very serious. And maybe at your own personal time, you can try to understand what it is. Women spend more time than men in unpaid work, a burden that is likely to get heavier during the pandemic. In an average day, women spend about 3 times as many hours in unpaid domestic and care work as men, according to the latest data from 89 countries. Okay, let's skip a bit. We just go straight to here. The COVID-19 crisis is radically changing how people, particularly women, spend their time, often with a negative impact on their well-being. A poll conducted in 17 countries shows that both women and men are taking more responsibility for household chores and the care of children and family during the lockdown, but the majority of work continues to fall on women and girls, reflecting a pre-pandemic pattern. Okay, so let's go straight to. Okay, so it says women are increasingly assuming position of power, but the world is still far from parity. Okay, so now this I have to say that I'm seeing it, yes. In you hear a lot of women assuming high positions, yeah, which is very good because the whole idea is for these women to be championing the cause to end some of these things we are seeing which are really affecting the females negatively. Okay, but then as it is saying, but the world is still far from parity, it means that there's a gap, and maybe that's probably why numbers keep increasing of these sad cases that we are seeing. So now it says on as of 1st January, women representation in national parliaments had reached 24.9%. All right. Okay, so let's jump a bit. Data from 133 countries and areas show that women now have better access to decision-making positions at the local level, holding 36% of the elected seats in local deliberation bodies. The progress is largely attributed to legislated gender quotas. Okay, yeah. In 2019, women represented 39% of the world's workers and half of the world's working age population, but only 28% of managerial positions. Women face high barriers than men in accessing employment, and when they do get a job, they are often excluded from decision-making positions. In 2019, women accounted for 41% of managerial positions in Southeast Asia and 40% in North America, but only 8% in Northern Africa. All right. And of course, I guess I can totally agree with this because it could be a cultural issue. Because I mean, we have in Northern Africa, I'm sure you know the countries that are there. So I guess it explains a lot. Okay. So it is critical that women are fairly represented in leadership positions related to the pandemic. This will help to avoid deepening existing inequalities. Yes, exactly. That's why they need to be there. Okay, then finally, women's lack of decision-making power extends even to their own reproductive health. Slightly more than half of all women make their own decisions when it comes to sexual and reproductive health and rights based on 2007 and 2018 data from 57 countries on women aged 15 to 49 who are either married or in union. The analysis also found that women have the most autonomy in deciding on the use of contraception. However, only 3 in 4 women are making their own decisions regarding healthcare or on whether or not to have sex. Okay. So let's go on. Progress on other fronts is encouraging. In 2019, countries had established 73% of the laws and regulations needed to guarantee full and equal access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, according to data from 75 countries. The findings were particularly heartening when it comes to HIV. On average, countries had set in place 87% of laws and regulations needed for HIV counseling and testing services. 91% of these needed for HIV treatment and care services, and 96% for HIV confidentiality. Meanwhile, countries had instituted 79% of relevant laws and regulations that stipulate full, free, and informed consent of individuals before they receive contraceptive services, including sterilization. Okay. So guys, we're almost done. And then they say decisions regarding sexual and okay. So maybe at your own time you can look at this. So in summary, what is this report really saying? I think it's a very sad situation, and this is, it's so sad because it is really an SDG, which is not just about countries putting legislations. It's not just about that, but it borders around cultural, it borders around mindsets, because even as you could see in the report, they are saying that some of these women who are subjected to gender-based violence, some of them don't even report, you see, these cases, all right? So it's complicated. So there is earnest need, in as much as there is this legislation that countries are trying to commit to. I personally feel that there's need for a total mindset change where individuals will learn to live in peace with their spouses. Well, what we know as a family, where there should be love. That is what should happen across the globe. Okay, couples shouldn't fight, couples shouldn't kill each other. Some of these things you look at them and say, why is this really happening? You know, early child marriage, female genital mutilation, these are quite very harmful things to see happening in our time in the 21st century. So it's all about people doing more for the women. Okay, there is need for much more concentrated effort, and I totally agree. Looking at looking at things, I think this to me so far is the worst result in this report so far, because it's bordering around women, and we can already see that people are, are getting brutalized. So let me hear your thoughts. This was just my view. Let me hear your thoughts. Write to me if you can, and probably read this report, share this report, see what you have to say. So I've been your host, Coach Alexander. Until we meet again, see you on the other side. Bye.